It says it is working. My name is Paul Honeman. It is now, well, let me look at official clocks. We'll use one time. 12:04. I'm sorry, the posted time was 12 o'clock to the start of May's meeting of the Public Safety Committee. I'm the chair of this committee, and with me joining me on the committee is also
Dick Trini, Anchorage Assembly.
Tim Steele.
and again, Mr. Hall is out of town and apparently ill, and Ms. Gray Jackson may or may not be available to join us. So we're going to start real briefly with the, just a quick introduction to the Public Safety Committee meeting. Just to recap, just briefly, we're going to start with the department reports, information that we may need to help them to better serve and get the job done to the community. So we'll start with fire, since I saw Chief.
It's been a busy time for fire. We've had a number, of course, of fires as well as our regular complement, a couple of which are suspicious origin, so that always entails a lot more work for us. We did testing for our new hire fire academy. We had 235 applicants take the written test. Based on scores, we've advanced 67 to the next phase of testing, which is a physical agility test. And so we're looking at probably having that wrapped up in the middle of next month to have how many people we're going to hire and that sort of thing.
And again, you're anticipating an academy start date in July.
I thought you might ask me that. So the official answer is the date has not been set. It's based on staffing, and the number has not been set. Because what it comes down to is there's all the factors of how many vacancies we have, how many people we're relatively certain are going to leave us, et cetera, and try and make our best guess on when to start the academy. And it really depends on those things, so I hate to commit. That being said, you know, my gut tells me we'll start in July, start the academy in July, and probably with about 12 or so people in that academy. So you can't quote me on that, since that's just a gut feeling.
You think 12 or so, you think?
12, yeah.
And do you know, Chief, I'm just going to ask you one question, just let me know if you have any questions. Ms. Trey, please.
Just as 37 impacts your ability to get recruits.
That is a question I didn't anticipate, but I would answer it this way. Last time we did this, we had 700 applicants come through the door, so 700 take the written test. Now this time we had 235. Okay, why that is, I really don't know. I mean, we've got a finite pool of people. We've already made one pretty big sweep. Maybe that's why. I really don't know. In short of, honestly, I don't know how you would determine. I mean, you could ask people.
Thank you, Chief. I just,
Yeah.
off the top of your head.
That's just the straight scoop.
Because I remember in the past we had so many people trying to get into both the police and fire academy, and we asked the police too when they get there what their numbers look like, because I think we're going to see the same now.
Yeah.
Are you having any firemen jumping ship here in Anchorage for these other jurisdictions? Have you seen an outflow of our trained fire department personnel?
I've heard a fair amount of talk, but I've not seen anything. No one has left directly.
That's the question I'll have for you every month, because I want to try and track where the outflow is.
And if I get the opportunity as people leave, I'll give them an exit interview and find out why they're leaving.
Thank you, Chief.
And Chief, are any of these staffers anticipated at 12 to fill any vacancies? And is it all firefighter on trucks, or is it going to be paramedics? You know how that works?
Yeah, the way it works is we say, come on the job. The date you come on the job, actually get hired, you have to be an EMT and or a paramedic. So, you know, what does that kind of equate to? How many of which brand? I don't know. We have to wait and see. Paramedics are, of course, the sought after commodity, but we will just have to see how many we get.
And we have funding, if I'm not trained, Mr. Tootie, you may not be aware, we had some funding put in for the 2013 budget for both the police and fire academy. Is that funding adequate for the information, your material, I guess, perhaps it covers some overtime for some of your instructors to
Yes.
go behind them?
Yes. As a fire chief, I should never say funding's adequate. But
try to take that stress off you, Chief.
Okay, thanks.
Anything we can do to help you to facilitate that at all?
No, I think we're doing really, I'm hesitant to say, but I think we're doing pretty good right now.
Equipment?
We're looking pretty good on equipment. The ambulances, we're bonding for a couple ambulances right now. And then we have another bond coming in, so we may end up just buying 3 or 4 or 5 ambulances from the same company and get them in here.
On the ambulances, Chief, are we gonna make sure we do not buy them from the last company? I know they corrected the problem, but to get them perfected, we have to get the company up here to fix the problem.
Yes. So no, we're not buying from the same company. They did not, they simply weren't the low bidder for, I don't remember if they were not the low bidder, they were not responsive in certain areas. The company we're buying them from is very reputable, been around a long time. So hopefully, should be no problems.
Thank you, sir.
And I just wanted to make note for the record that Mr. Ray Jackson was able to join us on the committee. Thank you. We just talked to the Chief of the SHU, Fire Department and some academy information. I know you took a moment for that.
Okay, sorry, I'm late.
So Mr. Ray Jackson may have some questions if you want to keep it. So next we'll go to EPD Lieutenant Gillum. I understand that she's unavailable here, so thanks for pitching in.
No worries, thank you. And again, this is Gary Gillum, G-A-R-R-Y, Gillum, G-I-L-L-I-A. Chief Mew offers his apologies for not being able to be here. I am here on short notice, so I don't have a lot of details about some of the questions you're going to be asking, but I do have some. We are proceeding with recruiting for the academy, and our numbers too are lower than what they are lower. And from personal experience, I've been trying to recruit some individuals here. AO 37 hasn't particularly come up, although retirement benefits and other benefits have. Tier 4 has become an issue. We are seeing individuals leave. For example, many in my section, I mean, those of us that are at retirement age are going to be leaving in the next couple of years. And we actually have some younger officers in the 5 to 10 year range that are looking for other opportunities.
I heard Bill, you sent a recruiter up here telling the officers they could carry their seniority with them in some cases.
I had heard some rumors about that, but I've not had the opportunity to speak to someone directly to talk to any of those. And also I heard that the troopers were trying to recruit heavily, although the Tier 4 issue may still be an issue for them. Exactly. So our numbers are significantly lower for the academy at this time of the year in recruitment. We are still looking for a fall academy. I think we would love to see about 28 people. The last number I heard where we were closer to about a dozen so far. And that's a bit unusual for this time that we're in.
So we're trying to do different recruiting schemes to attract more people if we can. In the past, we don't like fishermen that don't have to put any bait down, and we just jump into the boat.
Well,
But in this case,
True, I mean, many years ago, it was a sought-out position, but now we're actually having to work at it. We've had open houses, we've gone to public venues to actively recruit. We're specifically asking for minorities and women to come into the organization.
do we have a recruiter hired? We used to have a recruiter for the police, right? We have one currently.
We actually have a team of them now. I think there's about 10 or a dozen in the background unit, but we also have a sergeant in charge, and they're actively going to local venues to try to recruit. So if you see a large gathering of a public venue, you're probably going to see APD there trying to recruit individuals.
Well, it's not, we can help you.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll pass that on to the chief.
That's all.
Lieutenant, there has been an issue that was raised recently in the media reference in and out liquor, and of course, prior to that, we've had at this meeting and at renewal time, we've had some difficulties locating a conditional use permit, and it may have been that it was at the time period when there was no requirement in that area. It may be a grandfathered issue, or may just be that it's not been found. We're working, I guess, with development services and the planning folks to see if we can locate that. But are you, I know you're running the SAU team, are there, I'm sorry, the community team. Are you aware of In-N-Out Liquor, particularly Spenard and Denison area, and have there been efforts to try to work with community concern?
I am, and we are working with the community. The CAP team, part of their problem-solving effort is they will meet with community groups, specifically community councils in their areas. As early as last year, the CAP team had received concerns from the Midtown area via the Spenard Community Council. There's local businesses along that Spenard, Benson, Northern Lights corridor that have complained about recurring problems with chronic inebriates. The CAP team did what we call a SARE project. You're familiar with how they work. They go into the area. They'll survey the community members, specifically the businesses working with them. You may have seen a news article about In-N-Out this past week or so. The CAP team has been working the problem. It's all part of our larger Title IV downtown issues that we've had. It's spill over into the Midtown area and the chronic inebriate problem. So it is all part and parcel of that project.
Have you been seeing any improvements or, I guess, lessening of the problems occurring as a result of your efforts?
Actually, no. And what we're seeing now is they're still in the analysis phase. They've done the scanning phase. They're in the analysis, and then soon they'll start the response phase. So it's SARA, which is the scanning, analysis, response, and then they'll do an assessment part of it. So they're just about to go into the response phase.
Well, let us know, because if nothing else, we can certainly send a letter or resolution, something to the ABC board to consider from their perspective on the alcohol licensing part. We have our own issues we have to deal with the conditional use side of it, but that's something, if you're finding liquor being sold with chronic inebriates and things like that, it's problematic.
I'll actually step out a little bit here on the limb and say that in the past year that we've had these Title IV projects, I actually don't have a lot of faith in the agency board. Based on our investigations and what we've done, the problems that we presented to them, we've not seen what we would consider appropriate action.
Any questions? Okay, Mr. James?
Are we seeing a problem with the social clubs that get a club license and start to have more frequent service? Is there anybody that's going around, for example, you've got a VFW that doesn't sell alcohol, all of a sudden on weekends they start having one-time only event?
I'm aware of some associated complaints about things like the VFW and some of those similar clubs. Particularly it's about maybe the loud noises, some activity in those that's hit and miss. We've actually dealt with a couple of different problems related to those. We are actually finding, if you're looking for the groups of the complaints, you'll see people that are operating with a license, they're operating within the law, but they still have associated complaints. Then you have people that are established businesses or licensed premises, and there may be operating within the law, doing what their business is doing, and then associated problems like the downtown area. And then we have over here this other classification of people that are operating illegally. They're doing the operations, and so the CAP team has been tasked with dealing with all three sets of those problems. And just this past week, we've had a particular location in the Mountain View area that was actually selling liquor to underage individuals. So we've shut that location down. They're out of operation as of yesterday. They're no longer there, and one individual has been arrested out of that problem. We've had a similar situation happen with the Showboat area. It's operated illegally by someone subletting the location, and we're tracking down that paper trail there, and that is actually a criminal investigation being conducted right now.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Ms. Whitney?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Hello.
Are you aware that the Shriners want to get a conditional use with the license?
I have not been told that.
Right, and it's before us, and they want to serve alcohol twice a month, 2 hours a day, and then special events. And it's maybe premature since you didn't know about it, but I was gonna ask what your thoughts are on that, Mr. Lewis. Do you know where they're located?
Yes, there's more lights in this west location. Yeah, yeah. Trying to think of that location with, the chronic anemia problem is not as heavy in that location as it is probably a half mile, 3/4 mile north and east of that location. I'm sorry, north and west of that location.
Because the issue is, it's right in the middle of a neighborhood.
Is,
And before last Tuesday, when we dealt with it, we got very few emails or comments from the neighborhood. But now that folks, I guess, are aware of it, yeah, it's like at the Rogers Park Community Council, they voted 22 and 5 abstained to ask that we not approve it. Yeah, opposing it. Yeah. And then in one of the emails we got, and when I at the community council meeting, besides the fact that they have a resolution out there to oppose it, I brought up the idea of, well, what do you think about if it was approved, if we limited the number of special meetings as a condition? And another citizen said, well, how about putting a fence up around the facility because of the parking issue and all of that. So this is something that we're going to be dealing with at June 4th.
you know, from working with problem-solving efforts through the community, I can understand the neighbors' concerns about bringing in something that's going to attract other problems. Even if the business works within their guidelines, whatever, we always see associated problems. Now, whether someone becomes intoxicated and leaves that and driving DUI from that location or the result of that location. So I understand from public safety, there's always some concerns, even if everybody operates within the law in there. So I can understand the neighbors' concerns. We would be happy to meet with any particular group and offer what we've learned from past experience. The Anchorage Police Department has always been forthcoming about, ask us, we'll tell you what we have experienced, and we'll offer an opportunity to discuss it with you.
Right, and let me just make one more comment, my name is Chairman. And before we postponed action on it, there were two amendments that Mr. Train preferred, and one was basically if they can't sell the liquor license, period. And if they decide to move, the liquor license goes away. And the second one was that it's going to come back before the assembly in May of 2014. So those are two conditions that are already in place. So,
You know, we'll work with anybody that wants.
thank you.
I think I would agree with that. Maybe perhaps neighbors or community council have to get together.
We have,
Thank you.
Any comments or questions? Okay, Office of Emergency Management.
I'm Rob Fitch, I'm with the Office of Emergency Management, and some of the things we're working on, hard to believe, I know it is, but wildfire season is coming up, even though we're pretty wet this year. Another thing is that we are continuing the brown bag lunches. That series will continue throughout the year. June 7th will be the next meeting that's held at the DP Energy Center. Public's welcome. We'll be talking about sheltering needs there. Our program supporting the CPR for the community, all the classes have been filled all the way through June at this point, so we really reached out, got a lot of people signed up for that.
Are those classes free?
I know, they're actually, you do have to pay $20 for the registration fee, and that's through the company itself, but you become certified CPR, so we're helping out with that, and we're paying the rest of the cost, so $20 is pretty cheap for a CPR class. Emergency Watch is continuing. That's the neighborhood watch program. If you're not familiar with it, we'll come out to your neighborhood and help you set up a emergency section of your own so that in times of disaster, you guys can actually work together and help each other out. So if you want to find out more, that's also on muni.org, and you can look that up. Ham radio classes. Anybody that's interested in becoming a ham radio operator, we will be conducting classes in the fall. Those classes are free. We deal the cost on that, and you just sign up and get certified through them. We're working on hospital exercise. We'll be dealing with evacuation of patients, and that's coming up in August. We're working with all the local course, Alaska Shield 2014 is also on our radar, getting ready for the large statewide exercise for Alaska Shield based on the 1964 earthquake. That's what we'll be working on this year. That's what I have for you.
Thank you. Anybody here during the 64 earthquake?
Yeah.
It was a biggie. Scary. I was young. Thank you, Mr. Fitz, appreciate it. And Health and Human Services.
Well, I have a lot of good news. Bike to Work Day is Friday. I'm sorry if that interferes with any taxi services that day, but we do encourage people to get out and ride. I've done it myself. It's a great feeling, and it's a good community event. And I live in Eagle River, so if I can bike to work downtown, I think others that live in Anchorage could. Also, pollen counting was a service we provided through our air quality program, and then we cut back on our air quality program somewhat effective this January with this budget period. But I'm happy to report that some private individuals in the community have ponied up to provide funding to us. So this has all just happened sort of in the last week, where we have all the equipment, so we're working sort of how to transition that over. The university has shown some interest at doing that as like an internship at the university. We're not sure how stable that is, but the state is working with us. Providence, Dr. Dwayne, who is the significant allergist doctor in town here. So that's exciting. The avian flu in China, I'm sure is public information, but I mean, there still are no human-to-human contact cases. And right now, HHS is in our busy season because we have grants that run from July 1st through June 30th. So what that means is, for the last couple of months, we're applying for grants, but we're also being audited for how we did the past year. So it's a busy time for us. The good news is, WIC is going to be expanding, and we have additional money from the state, and we'll be operating both the WIC clinic on base as well as CITC. So, and we'll be hiring six additional positions to be able to accommodate them. And then with our supplemental public health nurse grant, we are looking to hire an additional 5 positions, including a public health educator, so we can get the word out on homelessness and other things that we provide as services, as well as educating the public when it comes to public health related issues. So we're excited about that.
Just on the 6 positions, are those going to be dealing with WIC?
The 6 positions would basically be replacing the 6 that are currently, there's usually a dietitian, a family service counselor, and a senior office assistant in the WIC location. So that's what we're looking to replace in the 2 different locations.
Is one of those positions on base at all? Or?
We will be hiring municipal employees to service those 2 locations.
Will they be working on base?
Yes, sir, and we're determining where that location is right now, whether we're looking at the hospital, but I understand they're looking to expand to serve veterans there, so.
But you might want to give family support a call on base, 552-4943, because they have a lot of people that come in, military that come in and get counseled on WIC services.
Okay, and then you're gonna have to repeat that number, please.
552-4943.
49.
It's called family support,
Okay,
and that would be a good vehicle to get the information on WIC out to a large percentage of the military population, spouses. Because once a month they have a class for new spouses, new being people who just got here, and the wives will be there. So if they need to find out about WIC, it's good to get them information about the WIC process.
well, we have an Eagle River location, as you're aware, and then this Jaber location, we're looking for the hospital because we believe that's the most relevant place, but like I said, we're not sure yet, and those negotiations of where we're gonna place those services, we have to wait till we get actual word that we are the successful applicant for the grant, so.
Check out family support because
Thank
they
you
have
so
a
much.
lot of personnel that come through there.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When you mentioned auditing the grants, you're talking about the state and federal single audits that's performed by
Yes.
our auditors. that
Well,
do the
no,
financial
we
statements.
actually have, we had the Title 10, for
Okay,
instance,
so you-
Title
so-
10 person come in. and-
Okay, so besides our auditors who do the annual audit of the
do have auditors by, I can't say every year we do, Title 10 we do every year, and we just had her come into town. But it's a collaborative effort where, you know, she's making it very sure where we can tweak things
Right,
to
right,
comply.
right, and I understand, I was just curious what auditor she was referring to. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks. Stu? Question I have is, are the funding that's anticipated through the grants, pass-through from the state out there? Federal,
The
state?
grants have both been increased by the state in order for us to accommodate these new employees.
And we're pretty confident they'll be sufficient, not much.
We're very comfortable in those areas. Right now, we're working on childcare licensing where we're not so comfortable, and we'll be meeting with the state next Tuesday about that. That's a service that is not really competitive in nature. It's either the state does it or we do it. We have 47% of the childcare providers that we service. They're looking to expand our scope of work, and we're sort of pushing back on that, but we want the right thing for the community as well. So I'll update you on that, because we don't want to take on more than what we can do and still provide a great service. So that's all I have, unless you had anything else.
I only had one report when we were doing the first quarter budget revisions conversation. I asked specifically, and apparently the administration, I'm not sure if you, I just want to give you some comfort. It appears that they feel that the grant for the monies for the safety patrol
Thank you
may
for
be
putting that
forthcoming.
forward. Yes, we'll wait and see. I mean, they did come very late last year. In fact, we didn't appropriate it until the beginning of this year, and so we kind of had to finagle some there, but to cover that. But we'll be continuing to pursue those fundings, and I think the mayor did say that otherwise.
I think we'll make sure the money gets there to you, so just let us know, keep us posted, and we'll do what we have to do to make sure we shift the funding as we.
Thank you.
It's about 500,000, wasn't it?
Well, actually, I did have them, the 200,000 is what they were providing, 199,000.
199.
But we were anticipating overtime costs. Right now, we're facing $20,000 in overtime costs with that grant. We still have problems in the area of, you know, the Anchorage Safety Center and Beans and Brother Francis and overflow. We can only accept so many, of course, as you know, and we're really trying to just keep with what Title 47 says and house those individuals to keep them safe.
Because of what we were talking about earlier with In and Out and some of the other places. The summer coming, there'll be more people out and about, and unfortunately, people have to scoop them up more. Most likely. You'll see a lot of patients, I'm sure. All right. Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much for the reports and information. So we're going to shift briefly into I think what I'm going to do is change up the old business order here, and we're going to take up the tax cab limousine and Vidsar. Can I just get by show of hands people that are here regarding the taxi cab limousine license change? Like majority. How about towing? Is there anybody here interested on the towing side? If you don't mind, guys, I'm going to go ahead and take a taxi cab, but may have to move along and go in. So realistically, I wanted to just give you where we're at the moment. We intend to have a full vetting on the changes that have been proposed. In fact, Ms. Osiander is present with us today. Had proposed an ordinance change, a rewrite, if you will, for Title 11. And so I'd ask her to sit at the table because I know she may have some information that might be relevant to the committee and to others that are here. The Transportation Commission had asked that they get a chance to look at the rewrite because they hadn't been involved in the negotiations or discussions at the beginning. And so they did have a hearing with Ms. Osiander. I showed up kind of late in the end, but they were going through the actual proposed ordinance change. And then they asked that if they could have a couple of meetings. I understand I was out of town for the last 2 weeks, and I understand those meetings have occurred, and now they're mulling over some of the suggestions, some of the concerns, and the actual title itself. It looks like I just was noticed that it was a work session.
Been canceled on Friday.
For this Friday, it's been canceled. So I need to double
Just
check.
came across here, Debbie.
So we're,
Call the Kershops and find out why, okay?
so we'll see if we can find out if it's because the commission is still adopting or reviewing some changes for recommendations. Maybe that's the reasoning. Maybe they're saying they're not ready yet. So we'll have to look and see how it goes on. But I will tell you that it's as proposed, it's a pretty sweeping change. So we're taking the information that we have very seriously and considering the options. And just so you know, when legislation is presented before the body, it's kind of like making the sausage. It may not smell right, it may not look good making it, but at the end of the day, we hope it's a good product. So it may change. There may be some amendments that happen before it's all adopted, whatever comes before the body may happen. So with that, Ms. Osiander, if you wouldn't mind just kind of briefly synopsizing what you might have been involved in. I'm sorry, I see you're going to be limited. I don't know if you can move your papers.
Oh, I can talk just fine.
Thank you.
Thank you. The two main things that the ordinance does is it basically eliminates what I believe are the artificial government controls on the market. It opens up the market in a way that is in accord with what's happened elsewhere in the country. And I've obtained some documents on that from the Federal Trade Commission that I'll be sharing with the Assembly that supports that move. The main rationale for that is that the existing governmental controls over the market have not given us a good product. There are some significant problems in certain aspects of the industry that exist and have existed for some time. Generally, from the conversations I've heard, the taxi industry is working fairly well in town, Midtown Airport, but particularly for the disabled community and senior citizens, there are significant problems. I have met with the Governor's Council on Disability Representatives, the Alaska Mobility Coalition, Access Alaska. All of them place transportation issues at the very top of their concerns. It's been even more problematic with some of the reductions to the bus service that we have. There are large parts of the municipality that have no public transportation. And not only that, there are certain times when there's inadequate public transportation. We have more and more seniors who need assistance, and our demographics are changing in a way that causes, I believe, more and more people to have to rely on alternatives for transportation. Another major problem existing is the bar break problem. I know all of you are more than familiar with that one. Well, I've met several times with CHAR now, and their solution is what's included in this ordinance, and that is to create a specialized service for the time period that bar break occurs. And that's described in detail in the ordinance. I can talk more about it later if you would like. Also met with representatives of the police department. The police are providing a van during the weekend hours to assist in that. So it's an additional cost to government that potentially, if we instituted this new service, we could avoid. The last existing problem is really inadequate service to the outlying parts of the community. I can tell you with great confidence that I have heard complaints about lack of service in the Chugach-Eagle River area for 15 years. Those comments and complaints were exacerbated when we lost 2 out of our bus routes. I've also talked to folks with the Girdwood Board of Supervisors, and they've had ongoing concerns. It's really rare to see a taxi cab coming out to the outlying parts of town. So to me, the best solution was to open up the market and let market forces control it, but to do it in a way that does have some protections for people who already have these existing permits. So we did some look across the country at what other people have done and modeled an approach that Minneapolis successfully used that went entirely through the court system and was supported, that allows folks who have the existing permits to depreciate them over a period of years and then slowly open up the market rather than do it all at once. Also to put limitations on new permits so that they go to owner-operators to avoid the problem of owners of permits who are even outside the state and are leasing to operators. The other thing the ordinance does is it eliminates the current permit auction systems where you were seeing permits that originally were sold for $1,400 now going for $155,000. This would make it just a uniform price. And then the last thing that this does is it continues and tries to support the limited and special permits that are existing in place, but with new accountability standards. So that's one big aspect of this, is to open up the market, to try hopefully to deal with those existing problems. The other big portion of this, of the ordinance, that's, excuse me, actually equally important, is new standards of accountability. There is an increased opportunity and ability to deal with violations through clearer standards and reporting requirements than currently exist. It will be easier to suspend and revoke permits, and the process for doing that would be clearly delineated and more aligned with the way we deal with violations in other sections of municipal code. Go through the hearing officer process with judicial appeal after the hearing officer is done. There are new requirements for dispatch companies to do reporting. Currently, that's not really in place, and it's been a real problem, particularly with the accessible permits, where there's not been the ability of the transportation inspector to actually get feedback to measure how well the responsiveness has been. There's also new reporting requirements for accidents and vehicle damage. The section on drug and alcohol testing has been revised with the assistance of the Municipal Law Department to reflect current case law. There's new mechanical equipment standards for regulated vehicles, video with 72-hour recording, GPS silent alarm, allowance for both computer and two-way radio dispatch. There's new requirements that would prohibit restructured title and substandard parts to be used in vehicles. And there are updated rules for vehicle inspections, including structural analysis, which don't currently exist. There's another section that deals with oversight for out-of-district vehicles. Currently, we just kind of turn a blind eye to those, but this ordinance, if it passes, will require those vehicles who come into the municipality from the MATSU to register and check for vehicle safety and meet our equipment standards. There's increased consumer protection for both the driver and the patron under this rewrite. There's a simplified accountability process with new accountability language. There's a new requirement for response time reporting for both the dispatcher and the driver on the trip sheets and the dispatch sheets. And there's a new section that criminalizes non-payment of fare, which certainly should assist cabbies, and also destruction of property, the required property in a vehicle. And lastly, there's updated training requirements, particularly if you have a permit that's designed to serve handicapped folks successfully, you have to have some training there. So there's a lot in it, but frankly, I believe that a significant rewrite is absolutely needed. I started working on this last spring and listened and met with a whole lot of people, and it's my belief that a significant rewrite is way past due. So I'm happy to give you detail on any one of those sections if you'd like.
And Mr. Steele?
Yeah, Debbie, it sounds to me like we're building a larger bureaucracy in terms of inspection and reporting. Is that all going to be paid for by the industry, or are we increasing the cost of it?
Actually, I don't think it's more, because we're getting rid of a lot of governmental process that was just controlling the auctioning of permits, the requirement of who has the permits and that. What I tried to do on this was talk principally to the transportation inspector to see what the needs were. There are increased fees in here, but not
it's mainly during the bar break on weekend times that they use the van to help pick up the injuries.
How long has it been?
I don't know when it was implemented, but I was aware of it.
Yeah, well, it's news to me,
Yeah,
and I
it was.
think it's really great, you know, so thank you for that effort. Okay, so my next question is, I have a few, is, so why get rid of the Transportation Commission that's been existing for at least 30 of the years that I've been a municipal employee, and longer?
You know, it could go either way. I don't have a strong preference for it. The reason that I suggested eliminating it was because a fair amount of their work goes away if all of the taking permits or sanctioning permits goes to the hearing officer. I also think, though I didn't get into it in much depth, that when you set rates and fees, the assembly should be the body that does it rather than the Transportation Commission. I met with some members of the Transportation Commission, though not the entire commission when I was starting to write this, and there are some commission members who asked me to get rid of it. But certainly that's in your purview. They do serve a valuable function as an interface.
I've got
So it could be put back in simply, as a simple amendment.
Okay, and so my next question is, what's the uniform price for permits that you mentioned?
I'm sorry.
The uniform price for permits, you mentioned a uniform price, is
Well-
that not been established yet, or?
Right now, when the way to get a permit is either go through a fairly significant hearing process before the commission, and they'll issue new permits. Well,
I know, is the Transportation Commission, I think, too, right?
yeah, they're here. Or you can buy an existing permit. And the last two existing permits that were sold at auction were the $155,000. So my goal then is to avoid that, to just have a flat fee that the city gets.
Okay, and my last question for now is, you know, I know that you mentioned that you met with a lot of folks, and you met with Char. Did you meet with folks from the taxi industry also?
Individually, yeah, I've talked to some permit
So
holders.
when you drafted this ordinance, did you take into consideration input from both, you know, both Char and the taxi industry?
I tried very hard to take a lot of diverse input in. There's people in the room that I talked to at some length on this. Certainly I don't have all the answers, but I tried to be as broad-based as I could.
Right, and I know you don't have all the answers, but I just appreciate the fact that you met with different opinions, because I think that that's really important. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I think that's one of the main concerns I have, Debbie, if you don't mind, is what impact is burden on the Transportation Commission office? What, will they need more staff? Will they need less staff? I mean, right now, I think there used to be, well, if you don't mind, sir, the Transportation Inspection Office, there used to be yourself or the position yourself and either two part-time inspectors and an office associate. Is that still the case?
I've been told that we have one 18-hour-a-week part-time investigator and office associate and myself.
It's my belief he needs help. So I would hope, it was my hope that with increased fees, he'd be able to hire an additional inspector, or someone to help him actually look at the vehicles and deal with it.
Do you anticipate, have you seen the reviewed the rewrite, sir, the proposed rewrite? And do you see that this might be some help to the office or to the process? Or, yeah, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm kind of looking for some input from the administration, I guess you'd say, and you're the representative since you speak for the office, I suppose.
Thank you.
If you want to jump up here, you can. We'll get your name over.
Thank you, it's Eric Musser. From the fee perspective, we did work with the author and with OMB, and the increase will allow for the hiring of one additional full-time enforcement officer and to increase the existing part-time enforcement officer to full-time to absorb a lot of the increases.
And is there thoughts on this issue about, I don't know, and maybe someone from the industry can help me, but are there reconstructed vehicles allowed to be used in service as taxi service currently?
Mr. Chairman, yes, President, they are allowed, and we have about 45 presently in service. And the impetus of that aspect to ban them is that we put some through some additional inspections over the last year, and we found some on the road without airbags in them. We found one with some substantive structural defects and other defects that have really brought that issue to the fore and trying to figure out the best way to protect the public.
So would it be your recommendation then that we look at that as a serious concern where we should, you know, again, there may be some amendments, I'm not gonna lie to you, in this ordinance, but you think if this is something that's bears concern, we should include that as part of the rewrite to ban, I guess you could say reconstruct. I mean, I can tell you that my experience with the IM program, which of course has a lot of emissions and air quality, I'm supposed to be fire left, but if there was a problem with a vehicle, aftermarket repairs done, there was a referee facility that had to inspect it, make sure that it fit within the intent of the program. You know, I keep looking at, maybe there's a reconstructed vehicle that the quarter panel, I mean, I don't know who makes the determination if some is demolished beyond repair and reconstructed and has to be put on the title. You know, I don't know what, is there a dollar amount or a frame, does anybody?
Well, Mr. Chairman, we looked at that, and we worked not only with the Municipal Risk Management Department, we also went to the state. And when a car is rendered either salvage or junk, there we go, that's the term I'm looking for, junk. In order to be put on the road, it is actually supposed to go through a state inspection. It is the state that makes the determination whether to issue a reconstruct title. I had conversations with the director of the Department of Motor Vehicles and the state, and it sort of comes down, they do the best they can. They are supposed to meet that standard of even on safety requirements, to get a reconstruct title to be allowed to be on the road, but we believe that enough are missed, and it's enough of a hazard that they shouldn't be on the road in terms of a taxi or a regulated vehicle.
So they do the best they can at state level. Does your office, I mean, with one part-time and yourself, how do you catch with no airbag, or maybe the wheels aren't straight and running right or true or whatever? How would you?
Well, the existing ordinance allows to remove any suspect vehicle from the road, and it just, how this came to my attention was we had a permit owner that wanted to put a new vehicle on the road, and he came in, and they have to bring the registration in, it has reconstruct title on it. And for whatever reason, I just felt because it was reconstructed, he should take it to the dealer. I wanted a dealer to look at it to make sure that it was safe. And that particular vehicle came back, the body was almost split in two. The passenger airbag was missing. Let's see, the right front seat airbag wiring was cut. The right front seat, the left front seat belt was missing. The left side airbag was missing. And the right front wiring was bad, and the frame was split, and so, you know, and I just had some photographs of the deal. It just raised significant enough red flags. As others were coming in, I started requiring a dealer inspection, and we had 5 others come up with no airbags or deficient airbags, or the issue just kept growing to where it's a serious public safety concern.
Okay. I think I've heard enough. I mean, that to me, you know, absent the municipality having its own shop with an inspector that kind of pull it in, you have to referee facility, rely on a dealer, rely on the best you can. You know, I mean, I'd like to think that we're all adults and we tell the truth and we bring in a car that's serviceable and can be used and safe. But, you know, we're finding, well, just saying. raising that to me. What, and just to follow up, and I know that Mr. Train has a question here too, but, there's some concerns that have been raised, of course, about the service areas, inadequate service, of course, Chugaki River and Girdwood, and then, of course, now the disabled. There's the special permit, and I'll get to that in a moment, but is there an answer in this code change that would help the Chugaki, Berkwood area from, I guess, from either side of it?
The answer that I continually got whenever I brought this up is, well, nobody can make any money serving Chugaki Eagle River. We've tried and there's no market there. I don't know. I do know that I've heard complaints about it and escalating complaints about it. So to my mind, the very best way to solve the problem is to see if the market will respond. Open it up. If somebody cries, we need more barber shops, is it government's place to say, no more barber shops for you? Let's see what happens. I believe that, particularly Chugaki River, that's 33,000 people. We're seeing more and more low-income people. We're starting to get another senior citizen center out there. We have one bus route. We need it. To me, the simplest way is just open it up to allow somebody to try it.
Mr. Chairman, the administrator has no position on
Okay. I thought so, yeah. Mr. Train, you had a question?
Mr. Coffey, got any comments?
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, I represent the owner, Taxi Permit Owners Association. That's my card. We don't disagree with Ms. Osiander's issues, and you see the issues that we have given to you today, and they're essentially the same issues, or things that are non-issues which we didn't bother to put in there, such as reconstructed vehicles, safety inspections, and all of the step up in public safety aspects. That's not an issue for us. But we believe that the approach she takes will not work, because we believe you've got an industry that is regulated. It's been regulated for 40 years. In fact, when I first started practicing law, we had a borough and a city, and I was in the cab wars in those days too, with the people bringing, you could bring a person into the city from the borough, but you couldn't pick anybody up. You could bring a person from the city to the borough, but you couldn't pick anybody up, and that was a lot of fun. Enforcement of those types of things is very difficult. We have targeted solutions to the three major issues. In fact, we're meeting on, I proposed this, I'm not sure the date, but the week of the 27th with the downtown people, the char people, and Mr. Pollock and Mr. Wilbur, who I understand can't make it. I heard from him that he can't make it next week. But we'll continue to work with them for a solution relative to the bar breaks. We're looking at there's a specific proposal on Eagle River, which would involve cabs that could bring people into town and could operate around Eagle River with dispatch requirements and so on and so forth, that would target the problem that Ms. Osiander has said that exists out there, and pardon me, and so on. So the approach that is brought here is, like, for example, one of the things, I guess it's not an issue anymore, is the elimination of the Transportation Commission. We think that's a real bad idea. My understanding from discussing with the administration, some folks in there, they don't particularly like it either. And you need someone to be able to address the problems so they don't all come to you. One of the things we're looking at is incentivizing cab drivers with differential rates or zones or surcharges that will allow them to effectively serve different areas because of the costs associated with serving different areas. If you've got to drive 12 miles or 14 miles to Eagle River, a lot of guys aren't going to go just because they can't make any money. It costs of gas, $3 a gallon, so on and so forth. So we're trying to take into consideration all of the things that that might result in real solutions to the problems, and we're going to present those to you, and we're presenting them to the Transportation Commission as well. And as I said earlier, there's a host of things we don't disagree with at all, but there are several solutions to the problems that we don't believe they'll work. And that was the reason I gave you the Monday report from 2007 or 8, the year there was the referendum on this very concept of deregulation. And if you have a regulated industry, then the questions are, to my way of thinking, is how do you regulate it? What is it that you regulate? Well, you regulate what they can charge and what they can't charge, because you're giving them basically a right that I couldn't just go pick up people and drive them around and charge them. I don't have a permit. And so where do you draw the line on regulation? Well, it seems to me pretty clear. Safety is a key element because you don't want the public to be harmed in there. The second thing is, do you force people to do something or do you incentivize them to do something? The third thing is we have a limited number of people who take cabs. If you flood the market with cabs, you're not going to change the service to outlying areas, for example, any more than if you don't. Mainly because most of the cab service, and it's very well provided, and Ms. Osiander mentioned it, is in the downtown, midtown, airport, UMed district. That's where the concentrations of population are. That's where people who come and go from town, they go to the downtown hotels, they go to the midtown hotels. You get to the next layer immediately outlying it, and the service is pretty good there. The Monday report details all of this. When you get to Girdwood and Eagle River, it doesn't work. Economically, it doesn't work. So you can either flood the market with permits and have 100 more competing for the same slice of the pie downtown, and you're going to compound your problems with maintenance and repair and so on because it becomes affordability. You're raising the fees substantially to put more inspectors on. There's been no change in some of the fees for the difference between the permittees and the drivers, so on. So there's a host of elements associated with what is proposed here that in our view just won't work. But that doesn't mean the problem doesn't exist. So we are going to say, as I said, propose different solutions to you that will be more focused and more targeted on what is attempted to be addressed. And I will just say one more thing. The third one that is included in that is how do you handle the handicapped issue. And that's an element of the special nature of the permit and the situations that how dispatch handles those sorts of things. And I'll just say one last thing. The GPS idea, I think, like for example, is a pretty good idea. I think they're relatively inexpensive, and particularly with the handicap stuff. Because what happens is, I'm told, a guy will get a call, he's got that special handicap permit, he won't respond because he's been waiting in line at the airport for 20 minutes and he wants that fare, he doesn't want to get out of line, even though that's the permit that is held by that individual or individuals is intended to do that. So how do you handle some of these very, very convoluted issues? And I will say this, I have been told by the people that I represent that unfortunately they weren't, and by their attorney, Mr. Brennan, that they weren't contacted or discussed these issues with them, and they feel that they were basically ignored in this situation. Plus you're looking at an ordinance that changes probably 50 years of practice and basically takes away a very valuable asset. And I'm sure if we tried this with the bar folks and their $250,000 licenses, they'd be howling at you too. It's a lot of money tied up in these things. With a clean slate, tabula rasa, starting from ground zero, it's a different thing. But basically divesting people of what they've invested in is a pretty problematic thing. And I will note that the Minnesota decision was at our equivalent of the Superior Court level, and it hasn't gone through the appellate process. So whether it stands or not is another matter. Enough on the legal aspect. Any questions, sir?
Well, we make a real quick comment, and I know that Mr. Jackson, Mr. Steele, Associated comment. Just from our municipal clerk, looks like the work session is still
Session's still on.
Oh,
So that's,
Right.
I don't know where the information came from. We're sorry for
I'm trying to track it down, this burner of the state.
Ms. Craig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, Mr. Coffey, did I hear you say that on May 27th or whenever,
the week of.
you're going to get together with all the stakeholders and work this out, in other words?
Well, for the bar break issue. Now, I will tell you that the Downtown Partnership, CHAR, and cab owners, and Lance Wilbur from Transit have had discussions before in my email asking people to get together, recognize that the process should start to build on the work that was done, I think it was a couple of years ago. And now with the opportunity of the extended hours, hopefully that'll make it more make it more possible for a solution to be worked out.
Right. So
That's the whole
on
goal.
the bar break issue. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And these stakeholders are ready and willing to meet with you to work it out?
I've confirmed it with.
On all sides?
Well, I've confirmed it with Chris Schutte. I've talked to John and Bob and others and Duran, and we all want to solve this problem. It's not a good thing for anybody. So,
Right.
now, and then Ron Pollock, because he controls the parking, and Lance Wilbur, because the transit center downtown was thought about as being a staging area, so people could get their
I
cabs.
just wanted to make sure that I heard it right and that everybody's willing to meet with you and out, and so thank you for working on this particular part of the ordinance.
I suggested that a civil discussion can solve a lot of problems.
You know?
I just need to follow up real quick, Mr. Mayor, and that is, please invite Stephanie Marmello or someone from the traffic engineers to reference cab stand issues in front of the downtown.
I'll add her to the list.
Please.
I want to make sure that aspect's dealt with. I've heard before that the problem is no taxi stands. So we want to see what the problem is.
Yeah.
I want to get the.
She and I, and Mr. Schutte, had walked that area last summer or summer before, and she
Yeah.
was supposed to have done something, and I
Yeah.
failed to follow up.
My understanding is that we got to have 3 folks there, and because they designate, the traffic people designate those, Mr. Pollock does parking near there, and then Mr. Wilbur has the transit center.
You might even contact police or someone representative, particularly the bar break concerns. Mr. Steele and then Ms. Olsen.
My question is to both, Ms. Olsander and Mr. Coffey. Has anybody looked at the other side of the coin? We all know what the problems are, I think, and that is to make it a public system. Buy out the roads and make it a public system.
I suggested that would be a topic with Mr. Wilbur because it make transit the agency, for want of a better word, for doing this, rather than having Mr. Musser sit in an office in the police department, which it's not really a police function, I don't see, but put it in transit because, to my view, from what I've learned and what I remember from 30 years ago, is the public, it is one of the 3 elements in the public transit system. We have the buses, we have anchor rides and similar things like that, and the limousines are now part of that. And the taxi cabs are a big part of our public transportation system. So that's the kind of thing that I have written in my notes as one of the things that ought to be explored. But before I brought it to anybody's attention, I was going to talk to Lance about that.
Government does have a role in this whole process. So,
I think so.
Granted, the trend is to privatize everything, but there are some roles that may work better in the public sector.
Actually, the trend of privatization sort of peaked in the 80s, and they found that they had more problems than they would have otherwise, and most of them have gone back to regulating the deals. And if you read the latest letter from the FTC, you'll find that they state a nice amount of opinions, but unlike Mr. Mundy's report, there's no data supports their opinions.
All right, there's a number of things that Mr. Coffey said that I take strong exception to. The first one being that this ordinance is not the same as the referendum that was listed. That was totally opening up the market, and this does not do that. All this does is lift the limits on the number of permits. So I certainly want to read that. I have not read this Monday report, but it is not at all what we were dealing with then. Secondarily, Mr. Brennan, he did call me. He wanted to meet, and at the time I said, can we wait until I have an ordinance? Because it was held up for a long time with the Department of Law, meeting with the Transportation Inspector and Ms. Tucker. But I told him I was more than happy to meet once I had something to talk to him about in a concrete form, because it morphed several times, as you know how these things go. I have already met with the Downtown Partnership. I've already met with all the individuals that Mr. Coffey says he's going to talk to, and I've asked them what they think the best approach is. The suggestion that's listed here is exactly what Char requested. I met with the police representative who was there with Char, who was running the van, and this suggestion is their best belief on an answer. Mr. Pollock, Mr. Schutte were enthusiastic about this ordinance when I presented it
We're talking
to them.
special permit section.
The special permit section on the bars.
Okay.
However, I want to caution you. I think that a bigger problem than the bars is the accessible vehicle problem. There is a substantial problem with folks who have disabilities being able to get around. I heard horror stories. I've been talking to folks, and I think you're going to hear horror stories from folks who just frankly are ignored. People see them and turn around and don't pick them up. Folks stand at the airport for hours and hours and don't get a ride. Please, please, please don't ignore that. That is more important even than the bar break to me. Then the last, I wish I'd taken notes all the way through. I hope you let me come to the meeting, Mr. Coffey.
You're
on
more than
May
welcome, Ms.
27th.
Osander,
But-
unlike my attendance at your meetings, but you're more than welcome to have me. to be
Your
there.
attendance at my meetings. You mean
Title
with Mr.
21.
Tucker? Oh. Okay, I don't know where that one came from. The other thing that I guess, oh, well,
Let me just say, I see there's a lot of head nods shaking, a lot of people may have some comments here.
All right, I'll
I
hold.
will say that the Transportation Commission is still reviewing their commentary period. They would like to address this committee, and perhaps your body, with their recommendations. I don't know if they want to put it in writing, or if they want to have an audience with us on our next committee. And I do intend to see that we have, expected workshop this Friday, it looks like it's still a go. And so there's still some areas and times for us to have input, and I fully intend to be able to do that. So, we do have another matter we have here as well. Somebody said, are we allowed to speak? And I asked, how many people here, I say run a rather informal meeting, and I typically allow, rather than tie up, public hearing at the assembly meetings on Tuesday night, and, we're even going over that kind of public hearing process. I want people to be heard, and I want to hear their input, because it's important to all of us to know the scope of the issue and the problem. So, how many people here just have something that you think you can add in the conversation today, for just a few moments? Okay, so it looks like we have about 4 or 5. And I'd ask, please, if you can indulge me just for a few moments, can we summarize in like 2 to 3 minutes or so, each of you? And Lieutenant Gillum raised his hand over, if you don't mind, since it's staying.
I appreciate that.
Next person on deck, if you just move your way to the end of the bill, take a real great.
And actually, sir, I don't mind waiting because mine is really just a related issue.
Okay, very good.
So, and that way, we don't, I don't interrupt the flow.
Very good.
I'll wait.
Okay, if you just identify yourself by name, if you live, and let us know if there's a spelling issue over there. Go ahead.
My turn?
Yes.
Miss Osiander.
Can I get your name first, please?
Oh, Autumn Hayes.
I'm sorry?
Autumn Hayes,
Autumn Hayes.
H-E-Y-S, spelled funny, I know
H-E-Y-S,
it.
okay.
She had said that she talked to everybody in the community, but I have not run across a driver, that's those of us out in the trenches, that's actually talked with her about...
Are you a driver, ma'am?
I'm a driver. I'm a night driver. I've been driving 10 years. I drive right now for Taylor Leasing. The things I wanted to touch on is this new ordinance is absolute destruction to the cab driver. Complete obliviation of our chances to make a living, especially the special permit for driving 8 of our 12-hour shift is not even remotely bar break. Bar break is not 10 to 6 in the morning. Bar break is 2 to 3:30 in the morning. And I invite you, each and every one of you, if you wish to ride with me on a Friday and Saturday night, I will pick you up where you want to be picked up. You can ride with me my entire shift. You can see what it's really like. And I will drop you off where I picked you up when we're done. You'll see that every Friday and Saturday night, we clear every patron that wants to take a cab, usually by 25 after. The last several weekends, it's been 16 after, 24 after, and I'll get to that in a minute. We clear the bar completely from the time that Char throws everybody out on the pavement in under 30 minutes, except for maybe 5 holidays, and that's New Year's, when everybody wants to go out, St. Patrick's, Cinco de Mayo, Halloween, and I know there's one I'm forgetting, but that's not the point. Every night, you can go down there. Yes. Christmas Eve. We clear the streets before half an hour hits. Now, they want us to fix everything. I ask you this. We take your customers to the bar sometimes they drive themselves. The Char community has a choice of how long they're going to serve a customer when they're going to invite them to leave. Now, if they're going to throw everybody out at last minute and expects us to clean up the mess and then say, well, you need to add more cabs and decrease the amount of money you make, working this job with no security, no benefits, no help, I mean, we're in the middle of nowhere. There's nobody around us. That's our reality. And by adding these extra cabs, you're cutting our pie into smaller and smaller and smaller pieces. Our expenses are going up. Our call volume, which can be verified, I know somebody has it in here, is going down. So we're making less and less money I honestly, for the last year and a half, have qualified for food stamps, and I've been driving 10 years and cannot say that before then.
Let me ask you a quick question, Paul, because I'm going to summarize on your time here.
Right.
Do you know about the off-the-road program sponsored by Sheriff?
Off-the-road program does not work for two simple reasons. One, it's hard to coordinate two cars to be in the same place at the same time. Two, you have no place to park your vehicle safely while you're transporting vehicles. I did the off-the-road program whenever it was like at the Mountain View VFW or someplace like that, so that I could park my vehicle. Those I would do. The other ones I wouldn't. I had no place to put my vehicle. I mean, obviously, there needs to be another way. My customers and I have even talked about it, like some kind of voucher program where they get a two-part voucher. They take one cab home, then the next morning they use the second half of the voucher to go back and pick up their vehicle. That's smarter. It uses up less talent.
Well, we're going to get into another topic here that we found that is becoming more problematic, which is leave your car there and the car goes away.
Yes.
And then there's a huge bill there rather than just one taxi cab.
Right.
So I thank you for your information. There'll be more.
I wanted to mention one other thing, real quick. The whole Eagle River thing. It's not just the problem of going there, not wanting to go there. It's the problem that sometimes even when they say they're gonna, I've got it on here, but I can't find it. That you call them, you text them, you say, I am on the way. Are you sure you want to ride? And you get halfway there, and they say, never mind. You've already passed Fort Rich. You have to go all the way to Eagle River and turn around. So you're dudded. If you go all the way there and they don't answer, you're dudded. So you're spending a half an hour to 45 minutes of your time as a complete waste of gas and time for nothing. There can be other options than opening up the cab industry.
I'm going to ask if you would, please. I'm going to ask if you might take time to note out those options and make sure you're prepared. We'll have another opportunity.
Okay.
Please make sure you submit that to all of us on the assembly, not
Okay.
just this committee.
But I do invite you to come with me on bar break. You'll see we clear it up every day by 3:30.
You never know, I may take up on opportunity.
Please do.
Patrolling on the weekends from time to time. Mr. Marion.
Yes, I'm glad you recognize me. I wish I had copies for all of you, but you guys can pass that along.
Okay.
The bottom is the City of Spokane ordinance. In 1980, they went to it. Anybody can get a permit for the amount of money. I was attempting to get the compensation question that Taylor talked about in the last Transportation Committee meeting. Unfortunately, I was not able to get that in time. What I can tell you is this. They just recently revisited it again, just in 2013. I actually prepared some of that, printed off the printer last night. I can tell you, from somebody who actually lived in Spokane before coming up here about 15 years ago, cabs, drivers have made more money since they've gone to this limited open entry proposal that Debbie Osiander wants to do up here. It's worked. Spokane, city population, 212,000 people. Anchorage, probably, I would say about at least 230, 240 in the city itself.
They're saying about 285. Just real quick, would you state your name for the record? I know you guys.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mark Marion,
Thank you.
former Alaska Yellow Cab dispatcher.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay. And I can tell you, there have been some increase of calls, but I believe that also has to do with increase of service. Now, as far as Eagle River is concerned, and Chugiak, I believe cab drivers want to serve that. The problem is you have what's called the Eagle River to Eagle River situation. And that has been the problem in the past. And we've had people wait an hour and a half, 2 hours to get service, which I think is a problem. And I can tell you that, and also in Girdwood, that's been a major problem. In fact, in Girdwood, if they're doing a Girdwood to Goodwood trip, I used to just write down the name and number. If somebody was heading out to Alyeska, let's say to do a battery jump or some sort of thing like that, I would just write down the phone number, say if you're able to do that, go back and do it. Because now as far as the chart issue, Alaska Yellow Cab has not served char customers since 2008 because the manager over there decided not to do it anymore.
Manager of where?
Of Alaska Yellow Cab, Regina Doyle.
Dispatcher company? Or-
Yeah, the dispatch company chose not to do it anymore.
Do you know why?
What happened was that the cab drivers kept feeling that they needed to hire like $30 each way. And I remember I used to have a list of the bars that served to see if they would qualify for the char program. Because there was only certain bars that qualified for that and that were members. And that sort of thing. And it would be, I would coordinate to them when we had a special attribute for them. Okay. And if there were cab drivers that didn't understand that, I would educate them on how that works next time, to make sure they're not just going there just for a fare. And I think we need to figure out a way we can get the cab drivers to do these trips with char and get these drunks off the streets. The other thing, Seattle is attempting to do this right now, but they're having a problem with the Liquor Control Board.
We're well beyond the 3 minutes now, so I just want to...
Oh, this is the first time I've done that, I'm sorry.
That's okay, that's okay. Mark, I tell you what, I would like to hear more from you and your ideas. I know that you're not bashful. I know you've got some entries and such, and you've given us some good information today, so I appreciate you doing that. And I'd ask that you stand by, because there's going to be a public hearing, a work session this Friday.
I will be there. What time is it and where?
Should be at 1:55.
155, the Assembly Conference Room.
1-5 at City Hall?
Room 155, yes.
Okay, I'll be there.
First floor, come in and make a right.
What?
Just come into the city hall and make a right.
City Hall, make a right, make sure you don't watch the Fox News beforehand.
Hang on, just 1 second. You can sit down here. Go ahead.
I'm Rick Nelson. I'm the Vice Chair of the Governor's Council on Disability and Special Education. You support the ordinance?
Yeah.
Per ordinance. Because he has a disability that you guys can all see. He's tried to get a taxi cab many, many times. And he's called lots of times. Every time he's called, they say, well, yeah, we'll send one on the way right now. And he's waited 2, 3, 4, and 5 hours for a ride before. Can't believe that taxi cabs treat people with disabilities like this. He believes everyone should be treated the same no matter who you are or how you are. He's tried different public transportation and they all don't work. And he believes the best way would be to have a taxi cab. An accessible taxi cab. So when you call, you should be able to picked up right then and right there. Well, he knows there's a 20 or 30 minute wait. And that's fine. So you and everybody you represent? They shouldn't have to wait or get ignored because they're different than everybody else. They have the same right as everybody else in this country. They should be treated the same.
And it's about almost 4 minutes into it, and I'm trying to accommodate for your communications. And thank you for helping, by the way. Mr. Nelson, I want to thank you for coming today and standing up here and speaking. I know it's difficult, but I think it's compelling to hear that you've got some challenges and concerns. I don't think there's one person here that can see that you're speaking passionately about a concern that's addressing not just you, but other folks that may have disabilities. And I think Mr. Coffey, when even he had admitted that there were some problems with the disability access, and Ms. Gilsander addressed that in the ordinance as well. I don't know what the answer is. It seems like you're fairly mobile. I know you have maybe a little problems in balance, but it seems like you're fairly mobile. I can't imagine.
He uses a wheelchair as well.
Okay, very good. Ms. Gray Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First off, I want to thank you for coming, and I know that there are issues with the ordinance that needs to be worked out, but I can tell you right now, for the record, that I, L.B. Gray Jackson, believe in equal rights for everybody under all circumstances. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Nelson, thank you so much. Stand by. There may be some more opportunities for you to present your information. So thank you, Ms. Nelson. Appreciate that. I think we had one more person that wanted to comment, maybe two. Okay, we've got, remember folks, we've got another issue, so I'm going to have to limit it. We're going to cut it down and limit it a little because we'll have another opportunity. We've got another issue that's very important we need to discuss. Yes.
Good afternoon, Paul. Also, the Public Safety Committee here. My name is Lynette Marino-Hins, and I've been a cab driver for just about 35 years now. Also, I'm the president of the Anchorage Cab Drivers Association. Ordinance 36. At first, the majority of us were against it. And then, after looking at the different items that were included in it, we realized that it would be for our best interest to support it, the majority of us. And with Ordinance 36, because of our industry, it's so monopolized right now, and it's unfair. It's been unfair for a long time. We would like to see the market open up. We would like to see the flat fee. We would like to see, we don't mind about the increases for the different requirements for keeping up maintenance, etc. We understand that safety is very, very vital to not only the drivers, but everybody that gets in that cab, whether they're 1 day old or over 100. And because of accidents, when I first start driving a cab, I drove under some very scrupulous owners of cab companies. A steering wheel was put on this cab, and it shook. Every time you went over 30 miles an hour, that thing started vibrating very hard. It was very difficult. The outside headlight was put up on top of the cab. It was mounted on top of the cab, like that. And so there has been a lot of improvements in cabs, yes, and I'm very grateful because I know that the public cannot be subject to those kind of issues. But with ordinance 36, also you talked about the handicap bans. I drove 173 and I was a part-time driver. The unfortunate procedure with the GPS is that we did not know where other handicap bans were. I was at the airport a lot, and I do appreciate the young man that came to testify. My sister, Diane Marino, was under Hope Cottage. And the handicap vehicles, when you can't see where another handicap vehicle is and if they got a trip, it disadvantages you. What happens is that the dispatcher, if they can't get somebody to respond and the other handicap vehicles don't know that it's not covered and it's been a half an hour or an hour, then the handicap vehicles are very much, they're shown in a light that's real negative. It's a workout. The van that I drove was a very much workout to pull out the lift.
Can I get you to summarize real quick?
And my concerns about the new taxi cab permits, we want them regulated. With Proposition 8 that I helped do, the owners and their spin doctor made it look like it wouldn't be regulated. That was very untrue. Okay. For bar break, we understand that there is a problem, but like Autumn said, it's not a tremendous problem that can be dealt with, because I switched to day shift, but I know about the bar break problem. That can be taken care of very simply. So please, when you take into consideration of drivers that have been out there 20, 30, 40 years, and because they play by the rules, they're very disadvantaged in the current system. It's been very monopolized. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. All right, folks, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to close down the taxi issue at the moment. Lieutenant Gillum, I know you waited to end.
Thank you, Chair. The one thing that Chief Mew had asked that I bring to your attention is under 11-10-170. He understood that A2 was going to be removed. That's a requirement that the Anchorage Police Department does all the background checks for the new hires for those individuals. And he understood that was going to be changed. He noticed it in the agenda that was inside there, and he wanted to make sure that that was removed.
And say that again, which section?
Oh, I'm sorry. It's 11-10-170 A2. Well, actually, it's unfunded, so that means we have to.
I'll be happy to provide an amendment.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Mr. O'Malley, I know Ms. Gray Jackson had asked you, I know if you could.
I'll be 1 minute.
Thank you.
Okay, I just want to talk about what Mr. Coffey brought up. First off, in the April meeting of the Anchorage Transportation Commission, the Anchorage Transportation Commission recommended immediately 15 additional permits to be issued as soon as possible. And the February Anchorage Transportation Commission meeting, Mr. Musa here did a survey at different cities and basically came to the conclusion that Anchorage was 25 permits a taxi short of where it should be. And a lot of the problem with the taxi industry is just accountability. The way the dispatchers work right now, they don't service the public. They don't make money off the public, and they just have no accountability. Permit owners have no accountability of how the service is, and complaints. Basically, complaints are just ignored. And until something's done, I highly recommend Assemblywoman Osianda's proposal as is, and in the future, if things need to be changed, we could change it. But the immediate thing is add permits. That's all I want to say. That will help everything all around, even Eagle River.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Gray Jackson. Can we need to get on the towing issue, and maybe I can have you, if we've got some time. Can you stick around with me? Okay, all right, please. I know you spent some time. Okay, please.
Sylvia Benavides, Director of Anchorage Char. And I just want you to know that we do support and all the hard work that you put into this legislation. You know, it may not all be perfect, but I'm sure that as time goes by, things will be tweaked in and fixed, like any other ordinance that we have worked with together. The main issue for us is bar break. And I hate to disagree with all the patrons being picked up at bar break, because it's not true. You can go to any bar, you'll see the chaos of people waiting around. As a matter of fact, I went out this Friday night just to look at how it was on 4th Avenue and at bar break, and it was people everywhere and maybe 1 or 2 cabs around. There's not enough cabs in the city at one time. Yes, you might have 173 permits, but there's only a small percentage of that operates in the nighttime, especially around the bar breaks, holidays, and weekends. So, having said that, we are very much in support of, and I'm speaking on behalf of Anchorage Char, which I represent over 250 members. And yes, we do want to support our own, if it is to it, and we have to do our own transportation for our own industry. That's what we want. We're not about making money. We're about public safety. Thank you.
And so I just wanted to ask, to clarify, I understood Mr. Coffey said there were some stakeholders. I think he might have stepped out of the room. Are you meeting with Mr. Coffey and several other entities for the
Downtown Partnership? Yeah, I am on the board of the Anchorage Downtown Partnership, and I will be there. Okay. And I have also invited my board members to come along.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, and I'm sorry for having the folks stick around there for the tow issues. I just want to give you an update of where we're at currently, and I know the Ombudsman staff is here. I know that we had legal, our Assembly Council staff was here. So I wanted to catch you up to date. Waiting to make a comment on this particular issue on towing. And if you're leaving the room, please, if you could carry on conversations far enough away from the door so we don't have to leave the door open for air circulation. If you will, we have 3 types of towing, and just to refresh the board, and Mr. Steele is moving the board, 3 types of towing that are operating in the municipality under our code. And one is, of course, if you have your own vehicle broken down and you need assistance and you call any tow company in the book and you say, hey, I need my car taken from point A to point B, that is unregulated. There's absolutely nothing the tow companies in barter for a case of beer, for a free turkey dinner, or for an airline trip, cost $1 or $1 million, and that's between the 2 parties. It's a contract between the 2 parties. That's a consensual tow. Another type of tow is the impound on rotation, which is when the government, the police department, or the airport, if you will, if you're in a no parking zone, or if your car gets in a car crash, it's disabled, and you're towed, the person is taken to the hospital, leave the car out in the middle of the street, the police have to do something about it, and they call for a tow company. So that is done on a rotational bid, and it's controlled and operated by the municipality through the police department, and it's actually a contract. The one that we're addressing, and the one that we are allowed by law to regulate, and that is the private person private person's impound, or what everybody else knows is a non-consensual tow. Some people who call me many times say it's sanctioned theft, because you're taking, the government is allowing one party to take their car without their knowledge or consent. And when I talk to them about, well, you were there, probably should have looked at the sign that said no parking, or, it says where to contact the tow company, that goes on. We have been tackling this problem, Mr. Trainee, I know on one step on the Assembly since 2008, there's some proposed drafts here. And I know the Ombudsman's office has been taking a plethora of calls here the last probably 6 months to a year. Most recently, I think Ms. Erkman had contacted several of us on the body about an incident. And ironically, and not to share, but perhaps you can speak if you need to. As a result of going out with some friends, left their car there, chose to leave her car overnight, and the car was taken. So if you want to start briefly by giving us a description of what happened in your case, if you don't mind, just I mean, congratulations.
As long as David will let me
Sure.
do this. For the record, my name is Sarah Erkman. Sarah spelled with an H, Erkman, E-R-K-M-A-N-N. Thank you, Chair Horman, for the opportunity. I guess it was 2 Fridays ago, I met a friend for drinks at Gallows on Diamond Boulevard and had too much fun and made the call to get a ride home. So left my van parked outside of the Gallows lot, several spots into what would be like where Sportsman's Warehouse and Sam's Club is. Came back early the next morning with my husband to retrieve my van and it was gone. Called the towing company and said they confirmed they in fact had my van and that I could come down and get it for the price of $320 to get it back. So I need my van. I've got 3 kids and like anybody else I need to be able to get around. So went and retrieved my van. The tow company was very professional. I would just like to say I thought they were good operators. But when I inquired about the what I considered to be a very high fee for getting my car back, they said that was something that was really a municipal issue. They didn't have much to do with it. They actually thanked me, which I thought was a very nice sentiment, thanked me for not being a DUI on the road. Said you ultimately made a good call and decided not to drive. But that said, we need your $320 to get your van back. So fortunately, I'm in a position where I was able to pay to get my van back, but it just struck me that there are many in this community who that would be a devastating blow to their finances to be able to retrieve your vehicle, and what an impact that would have on my family if, for whatever reason, I was not able to get my car back. So just knowing how things work in this town, I just decided to queue in the assembly and see what could be done, and then Julia Tucker asked me if I could come today just to offer up an example of a concerned citizen.
Mr. Trainee, a question.
Which company?
Riggs. Yeah.
Well, I'm showing they have a $200 tow. What was the extra charge for it?
I have no idea. I just paid the money. I still have my receipt for whatever it's worth.
It's your
320.
That's
Can I ask when you picked it up?
It was Saturday morning.
So there's an after hours fee for picking it up.
Okay.
And you probably had 1 day of storage.
It wasn't 24 hours, but I don't know how you do the.
So $60 for the weekend release, that's $260. Still get $60 left.
So it was impounded at night?
Are you with Riggs Tow?
I left.
It was probably impounded after 10 p.m. at night, so it's probably a night impound.
I don't have that fee listed here. I only have a
The
few.
220 is the day rate.
I see 200.
Okay.
On your sheets listed as of April 29th, I see $200 for a PPI tow.
Can I see what you're looking at?
Yes, sir. This is now I have to say, this is a compilation from the Ombudsman's office. We pulled the sheets that are listed at the municipal clerk's office, which is required.
I got popped for $405.
Okay, that's the day rate. That's actually the day rate. So my rates are on file. You only have the day rates here.
Okay. All right, so I'm missing a few pieces.
Yeah, you're missing the rest of the.
Okay. I asked for some specific
Right.
parameters here, so I was looking at a regular tow. Perhaps I missed the nighttime, so I apologize. That was my.
So I think the night one's $250. You can have an after hours of $60, and there's a $25 gate, and then probably 1 day storage.
Okay, so here's the conundrum that we're in. The municipal ordinance is pretty limited in what persons say. It's first of all, it says to my colleagues, it says that the fees cannot be unreasonable. That's what the code says. Can't be unreasonable. It's difficult, and we've had this wrestling match, if you will. It's been going on for a number of years as to what is reasonable and what is not. Who gets to make that decision? And the outcome in the end of the day, the patron, the person whose car was taken, they didn't call and ask for it to be taken, has to go, the only recourse it shows in the code is they can go to sue in the municipal and the civil courts. And I don't know how many people have done that. I know that there's been several people who called me and said they were going to do that. I don't know how that's often it's happened. I don't know if they even get that data point. But the concern here is that we're starting to get more and more, and this is again not an issue that's new. We talked about the taxi cab industry being around for decades, certainly have been for towing. Having a real difficulty when I look at a regular tow fee right next to it, to a PPI tow fee, and seeing the rates going from $59 to $375 or a 636% increase. I'm having a little difficult time finding that as what I consider to be reasonable, and I'm not sure. I'm just speaking out of my own commentary and opinion on it. So it's left for this body to decide in this area where we can regulate discussion, and we're getting very close as a body to introduce legislation in June that will list a starting point. Now, I don't know if Mr. Hess, if you've got any comments from other members of the public. Is there anyone here that's, I know you mentioned a comment.
Yes.
Yeah, can you get your name and then,
My name is Mark Hoffer. I had the experience of having one of my vehicles towed by one of my teenage sons, parked in the wrong place, didn't see the sign. I get that. I went to get the vehicle and it was $405. And I was like, wow.
which company was that through?
The one that's 636% increase. I guess I just drew.
K-Tone?
Yes, sir. Went and talked to him, very combative. I applaud you guys for being here. I've had you guys tell me before, you've done a great job. I was just dumbfounded on how we were treated. And, you know, I tried to keep a cool head, and I'm like, hey, how much does it cost to tow? And I've made a lot of phone calls. There's over 100 tow companies, and it ranges for, if I needed my car towed from my house to a shop, it's $50 to $75, depending upon how far you're going. I'm like, wait a minute. Your tow fee says $75. You have an impound fee of $300, and you're charging me another $30 impound fee, or a storage lot fee. I'm like, why is there a $300 impound fee? And the gentleman said, well, that's the price you pay for parking when you're not supposed to park. I said, well, you're not in a position to levy fines on me. Your job is to tow the vehicle when... So that's when I was upset. I'm like, how is this appropriate for it to be so high from a $75 initial fee to tow the vehicle anywhere in Anchorage, and now it's $405. So that's what brought me here.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffer. Ms. Guedez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've had quite a few complaints over the years, and no offense to the towing companies, but, you know, what it's been termed as is predator towing. And some really, really ugly situations. Because I can speak for myself. I know if my car was towed, I'd be really pissed off too. But, and we've talked about changing the code for, gosh, maybe 2 or 3 years right now. But I really do think that there needs to be some changes made, and I'm not sure exactly what those changes are, but they need to be made. We need to address the concerns of our constituents, and you are constituents too. Everybody is our constituent, but we really need to address this issue once and for all, and we're going to. But everybody has a chance and an opportunity for input before we move forward. So just so you know, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Hess.
I'm Gerald Hess, I'm Municipal Ombudsman. I have our Deputy and Associate Ombudsman here with me today. As Mr. Hunterman said earlier, we've had a lot of complaints over the last year regarding towing, a lot of them private party tows, some of them done under the APT rotational tow program. Part of the problem is that if somebody does something wrong, the tow companies don't follow the rules, don't follow the ordinance. It's the only remedy they have is civil, and a lot of these people that are being towed, they don't know how to navigate the court system. They don't have the resources to take it to civil court. We've seen people who have lost their vehicles. They're living on the edge and they've lost their vehicles. We had one woman come in and she went to get her car, and she claims that they were trying to charge her a $250 administrative fee on top of the towing fees. But because they would not provide her with a bill unless she paid, there was no way for her to prove it. Now, when our office contacted them, they said, oh, no, that isn't the amount, this is the amount. And it was less the $250 administrative fee. But at the same time, I mean, who in the world would pay a bill without having a bill in front of them? So there's a problem. And then her only recourse is to come to us, and we really couldn't do much to help her. So somebody in the city, and in my opinion, I think in the opinion of my staff, is somebody needs to be responsible in the city. Somebody needs to be watching the industry. And you're right, we need to work together. But if there are bad operators out there, ultimately, who should hold them responsible?
A couple of places could be the police department, we assign it to them, or we could assign a hearing officer, or the clerk's office. When we give the clerk's office, we've got to increase their staff. Right now, they don't have any staff, nor do they have the investigators to administer this program.
We
But
have
you're right, Darrell, it does need to
people come to the office, it's private party tow, and the signs do not meet the code. I've gone out and looked at them.
I remember when
And they don't meet the dimension requirements, they don't meet the line of sight requirements. But the only alternative that that person has is to go to civil court. But we're requiring that property owners put those signs up, but then we're kind of, as a city, we're punting the responsibility for it.
That's our fault.
And this is the thing, recognizing that people may miss a sign, that perhaps, like in your case, you made a decision consciously to leave your vehicle as opposed to potentially driving home and inebriated, getting in a car crash or getting arrested. Recognizing that the rights to the business owner who own that lot, wherever it be, has a right to maintain it, clean it, and secure it, safeguard it from people just leaving junk cars there, or abandoning vehicles. Looking back as a bigger picture and trying to lump it into what's fair and reasonable, I'm really starting to have, when we started out down this venture, we had a lot of legal review to do, and that's been done. We now know where our parameters are and what our role is as a legal body, legislative body legally, and what we can do to regulate. And we've been loath to try to tie this to a governmental contract for the rotational tows. I don't think anybody needs to suffer from that part of it, because that's a contract that's met by both parties. This is something where, I liken this, I always tell people, we can't tell what a plumber can charge you to go fix their water heater or the boiler. But a plumber isn't gonna go to my house while I'm not there to fix it and then give me a bill later. You see what I'm saying? So this is, I'm not trying to pick on the industry. I'm simply saying, I'm looking at your rate sheet, sir, and I still don't find $320.
Okay, I just added it up. You got $225, $25 gate, $10 fuel charge, and the $60 after hours. That's $320. Right here. Look at the graveyard shift.
But I mean, the rates for the tow are exactly the same. It's $200 plus $25 gate, I'm sorry, $225, you're right, at night from swings and at night.
Right. So it was impounded about 10 p.m. at night.
$10 fuel charge.
Just $10 fuel charge.
And what's the $65? Where's that
The
coming in?
60 is the after hours. She came on a Saturday. The office is not open. We're 24/7. The dispatcher answers the phone, but they actually have to send a driver to the office. He spends an hour.
So let me ask you this, if you don't mind me asking, just give me a scenario here, paint a picture. Diamond Mall area, on the other side of Diamond Mall area, parking lot, signs are posted. Who called your company out to come tow that car?
If it was at Diamond?
Yes, where she was describing.
Warehouse. Next to Gallows.
No, that's a patrol lot. That lot's closed at
So
night.
somebody's working.
We have a contract with.
Somebody's working to patrol that lot.
That they
Or
drive
other
through.
lots.
They drive through.
Or, to be fair, other lots.
Right.
They have other-
So you're at Gallows. Gallows actually has a parking
And it
lot,
was
and then they
full.
have exactly, and they have a common lot which is owned by property management, or well,
So-
property management is actually one that set the contract.
So you have patrol people that are out patrolling the lots to make sure that the lots are cleared. That's under
Correct.
contract.
There's
between
no
them.
parking overnight. There's no camping in those lots. Have you ever seen those lots?
So why the $65 or $60 fee to unlock? If you've got somebody out patrolling.
Not unlock. It's to go release the car while the office is closed. If she, if
What
it was
happens,
impound-
what happens what happens if
if-
she showed up right at the time you're hooking it up and you're gonna drop the car? What are you gonna charge?
Typically, they would charge her what would be like a.
Could you release it if a?
Yeah, they could release it there, and then you wouldn't have.
You see my problem?
Yeah.
If she called you up and says, can I reshoot your yard the next time you take a car down there? You're not making a special trip. You're gonna be there anyway.
So loaded curb release, if they were on site, if she came up to the driver while he's there, $90.
Okay. So what happens if, I'm asking the question, I'm just asking someone from the industry, I'm
Right.
sorry to put you on the spot.
That's all right.
here.
Go ahead.
I say, listen, I don't want you to make a special trip, but if you give me a 15, 20-minute heads up that you're heading from Diamond down to your lot, wherever your lot is, and I can meet you there, and you're gonna open that gate anyway to get that new car put in there. At that point, how come I couldn't just pay you the rate to open the gate that you're already gonna open anyway? Why are you charging another $65? I'm just saying, I'm
Well,
trying to find reasonable here.
Okay, I'm paying those drivers, okay? I know we're stuck on I-2 land, which I pay roughly $7,000 a month for just the land I sit on. Okay, I've got those drivers that I'm paying, I've got dispatchers that I'm paying. You are definitely taking a risk with an impound. You're open to being sued on every impound that you do.
Sure.
Our insurance rates are higher if you do PPIs, impounds, or repossessions. We do not
If I ask you to make a special trip and you're dispatching someone there, I understand that.
Yeah.
That's a call out. But if your truck driver is driving into that lot, they're opening the gate, and they could take
They're
the
not
money
gonna,
anyway.
yeah, if he's releasing a car while the office is closed, it's gonna be a $60 fee.
And I'm sorry, but to me, that doesn't seem reasonable. Sir, you have a question?
What's the difference in insurance between an impound and a regular tow?
Say that again?
What's the difference in your insurance cost between a regular
It's
tow?
probably 40%.
40%?
Yeah.
Well, I got charged $300 fee on top of a regular $75 fee to cover the insurance cost. And that seems to be a typical, I mean, you
Right.
got,
I've got mine broke out. I mean, if you come during business hours, you know, there's no fees for coming and getting a car.
What?
You know, to actually have somebody sitting at that lot for 24/7 costs a fortune. My dispatchers are off-site, having them be at the yard for those hours is just not reasonable to have someone there 24/7.
why did you
There are
tow
some
the car?
states, there are some cities and states that will mandate that you have someone on
Right,
site.
fine,
for
and
these cars.
if they mandate that, then we will do that.
Paul?
Yeah.
I'm curious, for a curb release, what forms of payment do you direct?
We do cash, Visa, MasterCard, or Discover.
Okay. One of the complaints we've had is that for some companies, citizens are claiming when they say, "Can I pay for my vehicle?" and they won't accept a credit card. And the code for muni-initiated tows does say that you have to accept whatever form of payment you accept at your office for a curb release. But we're getting complaints that some people aren't accepting credit cards.
And nowadays, it used to be difficult because you need to have a slide card, but nowadays they have those things called squared up where you can actually do.
If it's after hours, there's someone at the office, they get a phone authorization on the car, and then the next day you just run them at the machine. I mean, anybody wants to see my books, I will show you what my outlay is for the year. I mean, I'll show you, I have no problem showing.
Honestly, and I'm going to say this openly, I say this about tax cabs and bars, and I'll say it about your industry. I hope you make a lot of money in your business, I really do. But what I want to see realistically is people doing what I consider to be what's reasonable. And I know that's what's in the dang code, and that's what we've been hanging up and dancing around the head of a pin on.
Well, no, you have a regular rate, which was 85 during the day. It should be 125. You got people running around doing it for 50 who don't pay all the fees that you require to pay.
They'll pay $100 to get their bag
Yeah,
to their house.
you go, exactly.
This is a $20,000, $30,000.
A couch delivery is $125 in this town. You can't get that to tow a car that's worth $60,000, $70,000.
And we also have people underbidding us, doing it for $50.
No, I get it, it's a tough industry, the margins
yeah,
are
I
there.
mean-
My concern is when you look at it from a regular tow, if I were a customer and I called you and I said, hey, tow my car for me, what would it be? It looks like it's,
And they're happy to pay you.
and you're roughly
Nobody's happy
charging
to have
about
to do it.
$75.
Hey,
But I guess my point is that making a mistake shouldn't be that costly. Frankly, it shouldn't. I
And you
think
gotta
it's
also
very
remember, you
punitive.
don't have keys for that vehicle.
I understand, but
Yeah.
it's punitive. It's very punitive.
Right.
And this is the issue that we're running into. And I don't want to get into argument and too much of debate. You have something to say, Perkins, sir?
My son parked in the wrong place. I get that. I don't mind it. I wouldn't have, if I paid $175, I'd have taken that out of his hide. Here you go. I was like, $405? Oh, what are you, crazy? And when my son went out to meet the guy who had the vehicle hooked, when he goes, hey, I'll move the car right now. The guy's like, I already got it hooked. He goes, well, how much will it cost to get it done? He's like, $175. He's like, I'm 2 blocks from the ATM. I'll run there and run right back. The guy goes, tough luck, kid, and haul.
And I'm saying we would have released it for 90.
Well,
So it's, and I'm not.
Unfortunately, you're getting the brunt of this.
Yeah, I know.
And I applaud you.
And I do think 400, 500, 600 bucks is insane.
Yeah.
You know, it really is.
Well, I don't have a question, and we're almost out of time, but I just wanted to make a comment if I may, Mr. Chairman. And the comment is this: I think we have another issue that we really need to look into when we're revising this code. And one of it is your particular situation. You know, we have folks out there who are wise enough to not drive when they know they've had enough. And it's kind of punitive in a way. I'm not talking about the towing fee right now. I'm just talking about the whole situation here.
They're trying to do
You
the
know,
right thing. Yeah.
They're trying to do the right thing, okay? And then for those who know that, oh my God, I'm probably going to end up paying a fine, and then they decide, well, I'd rather take my chances driving drunk than pay the $300, whatever it's going to be. So that's
lastly, I know we're back to clerk, was there anything from the ombudsman's office that
I just have one question, kind of just came from what he said, because I believe you asked him the increase of insurance from a regular tow, because regular tows are running under $100, and to see a PPI jump up $300-400, again, just as a person, that seems unreasonable. He asked him what is the increase in insurance, and he said 40%.
Yeah, he asked what our insurance, when we tell them that we're doing impounds, that's about what they increase our
So if
insurance.
the increase is 40%, we're seeing what, 300% increase?
Yeah, some of
So
those are-
maybe somewhere reasonable would be a lot.
If you guys are going off that total bill, there's also a $10 fuel charge on there. That's not really, every tow, if you look at all my tows, they all get a $10 fuel charge, or if it's more out of town, it's 10%.
Right, so my question would be kind of, I mean, and maybe you could come up with the numbers. This is my regular tow, and it's not really 75, because we also add this, so maybe it's 150, and then a 40% increase.
Right. Because a night tow, okay,
Would that be
if you call me for that
reasonable?
same tow, if you
That's
call,
it.
it'd been
Bring
100,
it to get to my
it would have been $110
Okay, well,
per.
And
Now I
so,
know.
and I just would, kind of in response to what Ms. Gray Jackson said then would be, I think one of the main issues that we are seeing and that might be addressed, might help a lot, is just for people to know, for people to have a realization for her, had she known she was
Right.
gonna get $300
Oh, yeah.
to leave her car there, she'd call her husband or a
We
friend
would've
or
figured
somebody to
something
get
out.
home,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so I think that
And I
lot
do
of
get
it
that.
is, and even if she'd known that she could have called you, and if she asked you before her car would have been half price. I mean, to me, that's outrageous that there's one of the cases that I had where the girl ran out of gas, and she ended up losing her vehicle. You know, to me, that's just outrageous. Had she known, she could have called for $50 tow, or you guys for $125. I mean, to not lose your car. So I think a lot of it is public outreach and to let people know that there's options, and you might lose your car if you don't be careful.
Well, I think a lot of it goes back to the fact that with, like any industry, you have good operators, you have bad operators, you have those in between, you have those that follow the rules, those that don't. But who's watching? And I think that's the problem. If you're going to regulate it, if the city's going to regulate this industry to any extent, somebody has to be watching.
Well, I think I'm very thankful that you were able to, come to the numbers and show me, because I was a little, still having difficulty finding.
And that's what I'm still saying. You're also saying the tow. You're calling it a tow. That tow cost $320. No, it did not.
Well, the
the
bill came to.
The tow was $225.
The bill came to.
The bill came to.
How did the bill
Okay, and
come
then
to that?
circumstantial as to she happened to release it on a Saturday. If she released it on a Friday, that $60 fee wouldn't be there.
if I had left it over the weekend and retrieved it on Monday, would there be additional
You'd
impound
have
fee?
had the storage.
And
And
what
how
was
much
the
does that
storage?
Wouldn't
come
even
to?
two stores, so $30 a day for the storage.
So the same thing?
It's about the
So,
same.
pick one.
Yeah.
So,
I just wanted to add, and because I went through and did the spreadsheet, one of the things that would really help, is probably the clerk's office too, is we've got 20 pages, all different categories, some handwritten, some typed.
Right.
There's no consistency.
I really thought mine was about as simple as you could get it, so.
It's right, it's
Yeah.
so many different things. I mean, I call for a tow, you really don't know. You can have that.
I could be towing a motorcycle, a car, a semi-truck, a semi-trailer.
Exactly.
There's impounds, and I got all this stuff that you have to, there's no one fee that you can charge for.
But if there was some kind of consistent form that somebody filled out.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, if you had a
Would be a
state,
lot.
you could fill out a statement.
If somebody at 10 o'clock at night stumbles out of a place and says, oh, I can't drive, and called you for a regular tow, would you have done that at 10 o'clock at night?
Absolutely.
And it would have been how much?
10 o'clock at night would have been 110 in town.
And would you give
And they
them a
would
ride
ride
at the same time?
Absolutely, they go with the car.
Well, I gotta tell you, that was one of the off-the-road concerns that I had when that program was, is I said, look, there's a tow, a friend of mine used to do that years ago, he's departed now, but, every time he went out, and he knew he was gonna be drinking, he called his friend, he had his business card, and he had a flatbed truck.
Right.
And
We actually do that for a lot of our business.
And he was a regular customer, and that's how he
Yeah,
got home.
lots
He
of
didn't have to
them
buy
get
the new cab.
That is their cab.
Now, what happens if I run
Hey,
gas?
just identify yourself real quick.
Okay. Al Millspaw. So what happens if I run out of gas, park it there, and put a note in my window saying, hey, I'll be here in the morning. Will you guys tow it and charge me, or what?
I know if it's one of our patrolled lots, they contract us to patrol a lot. If we don't patrol a lot the way they want it done, they go with somebody else and you know, we lose the thing.
It's a business owner.
If it's not one of our patrolled lots and the people don't call us, because I have, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of lots that we do not patrol. I only patrol maybe 8, 9 lots out of all my contracts, and that just happened to be one. You know, otherwise it would be up to the property manager or the owner of the property.
You know, I have an accident, anything can happen while the car is there, yeah. Okay.
That is one consideration that was proposed by
And
one of
we,
the
you know, we
colleagues
do fuel deliveries, you know.
in the past, which was basically make the owner of the business be there present to sign the form each and every tow. Make them get out of bed coming.
Well, yeah,
instead of having
that's, and you know, and that's what they decided to do. That's how it was operated.
That's right.
Other insurance companies have paid for inebriate towing, if you will, somebody could
I don't
call
think
and
insurance, I've never had an insurance company ask why the vehicle was towed. It's gonna show, I'm not gonna say on my paperwork, it's gonna show that I towed the vehicle from here to there, and this was the rate for the night.
AAA, like auto service.
Yeah, absolutely.
My car's disabled. My car's disabled. Okay, well, we're gonna come, we've just a little bit past the hour here, so we're gonna go ahead and conclude the meeting for today. And I appreciate everybody showing up and apologize for the delay in the towing taxi. I expected just briefly update. You can expect something for discussion laid on the table, introduced as ordinance change, likely in the month of June. Since we're coming in the middle of May.
And I'm good with, you know,
There's some
they
changes
come up with a
We're trying
cap
to be
rate,
fair.
we'll have a cap rate, yeah.
Sure, we're trying to find what's reasonable, and yet we're gonna put it in code where it doesn't just say you can't be unreasonable. It'll be specific, it'll have some parameters, but it'll also allow for consumer pricing.
So what happens right now is you've got to send your rate to the clerk's office. They don't do any enforcement at all.
Who's that?
The clerk's office, you have to send your rates to the clerk's office. for
Yes,
filing.
we have to have one file.
They don't do any enforcement at all.
All that's required is that they post it.
That's
There's
it.
no enforcement.
Right.
So we need a regulation that has enforcement capability, and everybody has the same standard for it.
Right.
On that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you being a good operator. I didn't mean to single you out.
No, and, you know, and I think I'm actually on the lower end of people that do impounds as far as,
Okay.
not a problem.
We were gonna be going off record, and let's use the time here, 2:08 PM.